Hey, welcome back to another episode of The Tool Man. I want to tell you a little story before I start this repair work. I met up with a viewer. He contacted me. Turns out he is local, and he's had a 48 Willys truck that he's had since 1976. He used to use it. It was a plow truck. I don't think he used it heavily, but anyway. So it's been sitting in his garage. I think he said the last time it really ran was about 96. And he really wants to get going on this again and was just looking for a little bit of help to kind of kickstart his project and help him along the way. So I think Guy and I are going to do that. I don't think we're going to film a whole lot of it, but I'm going to try to bring a little bit of content to you as we go. Now this truck is actually pretty nice. It's a lot nicer than this one was when I started. It came out of Colorado, but it still needs a lot of work. Now he's been collecting parts over the last probably 30 years, and he's pulled stuff from parts trucks he's had. He's scoured the country. He's got, for instance, almost a new box on it with new old stock fenders. So he's got a really good start here. There's not many parts he doesn't have on hand. However, some of the parts are going to need a little bit of work, and I want to show you the side steps and talk a little bit about what I want to do in this episode. So this is a step we want to work on. Now this is the worst of the two. He got a couple of steps with that box, or at the same time that he got the box. And the other one is actually looks almost perfect. This one needs just a little bit of work. The first thing and the biggest thing you see is we get this gouge all through here, and it kind of wraps around both sides. It's a fairly clean cut on this side, so I don't know why this was like this, but it almost looks like it was cut through there intentionally. But that needs to be repaired. And it shouldn't be too tough. What I'd like to do is kind of keep the curve in here, but just cut along this edge and get a new piece and put it in there. The other problem on this one is that this mounting bracket underneath is all rusted out through here. So this has got to come off and be replaced. The good news is that this is a step that was on his old box. It was with the original truck, and this looks like it lived a hard life. I think this might be beyond saving, but it does have that center brace, and I can cut this center brace out and move it on to that one. All I really need to do is get this bolt out. There's a captive nut under there. This one actually came out clean. That's good. This one broke off, so I may have to drill this out and put a nut on the backside. But anyway, that's what I want to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is clean this up, look for the spot welds on here, drill those out. I'll do the same thing on this good step, being real careful not to drill all the way through into the good metal here, but just enough to get this piece off clean, and I'll replace that. Okay, we're going to start by getting these braces off, and there are going to be some spot welds, probably here, and maybe a couple in here. What I'm going to do is just clean these up with a wire wheel and see if I can spot where they actually are. This is so badly pitted. I don't know if you can see that. I can't spot any of those, but let me show you something here. When I get a screwdriver under here, this whole side doesn't even look like it's attached, which is a good thing. And this side, it looks like I've got one here and maybe a couple here. So that's where I'll focus my attention. Yep, that's free. I got that one out. Now let's find the next one. I think it's right here. I'm not even going to punch it. There we go. That was easy. All right, I'm going to see. I've got both the captive nuts are here. It's just that this bolt's broke off. I think I'm going to try to get this one out of here cleanly if I can. Okay, we're going to start the easy way here with a little penetrating oil and some heat and a vice grip. If that works, we're home free. If it doesn't, we'll move on to more drastic measures. There we go, it's already turning. I think we got it. That was easy. There we go. Okay, the nice thing about this is it's all factory right now, which is perfect. So all I got to do now is clean this one up and go get the other one off. I'll do that one as carefully as possible because I don't want to drill through that good step. I need to get all this rust off of here, but we'll get this thing in the best shape we can now. Now this is my good step with the bad brace. I'm going to try something a little different. I don't want to use a wire wheel. I want to try a roll lock on this and see if it'll expose those spot welds any better, because this one actually looks like everything is attached. Again, making my way through this one. I think I've got them all on this side. I'm still working through here, but before I go any further, I have to mark the position of this thing before I remove it, so I know where the other one needs to go when I finish up. So I'm just going to scribe it for now. And I know when I clean this up, I may lose these lines, but for now I want to at least get them started so I can do something to preserve the location on this. I just drilled out these two. I'm going to see if I can break them free now. Just using a real thin chisel. That one. Got that. Okay, I'll come back after I get these last two. There we go, that's it. Got it. Okay, I got that off. I can see my lines that I had marked. So I know where that has to go. And I also noticed that this thing does have a direction. It's It's got more space between the mounting hole and the end of this bracket on this end than it does down here. So that tells me when this goes on, we're going to put it just like that, and everything should line up just perfect. Next thing I want to do is get this cleaned up. I'm going to try to get all the rust and paint off of here, but I don't want to take any metal away. So this is what I'm going to use. It's a stripping disc, and these are available. They're pretty cheap. You will go through these, but this is what I used to take a lot of the paint off of my truck when I did the work. And this will take paint and rust pretty nicely, but it really doesn't get into the metal. So this is the perfect tool for the job. So I want to get this cleaned up and kind of see what's going on here. I can see I've got a couple of cracks here and here that I'm going to have to fix. But getting all the paint off of this will tell us what else we have, if anything. Okay, let's take a look at our progress. I got all the paint and rust, most of it, off the top now, and I've wrapped it around to all the edges that go with it. We'll swing around here. Oops, I missed that. Okay, I still got to hit that guy. Oh no, wait a second, I did get it. That was just a reflection of the grass. Looked like a green paint on there. But I think we got a good start. There's a little more I can do here to get in here, but we've got a fair amount of pitting in here. And there's some spots in here I'm having a little trouble getting to. You can see one spot where the spot weld was that I think I thinned it out a little too much. But when I plug weld those back in, this will get cleaned up right away, and then we'll just grind that off. I think I mentioned before we had a couple of cracks here. So I'll clean those up and then hammer and dolly to try to flatten those out as best we can, and then zap them with a little weld. The rest of these little divots, these are from the original spot welds, and these would have been visible in this truck coming out of the factory. So we'll have to decide whether we want to do anything special with that or whether we just leave those. So now I'm going to flip this thing over and clean out the underside. This will be a little tougher to get into some of these spots, but I'll do the best I can. Between that strip disc and a couple wire wheels and a screwdriver, I've got this as clean as it needs to be. So we got most of the rust off of this one. There's a little bit of pitting I'm not too worried about. And on this side, a little less, just because the access here is a little tough and there's a little more pitting down here. But with what I've got off of here now, I can treat this with a rust converter because there's nothing flaky sticking up. So the rust converter will do a good job of cleaning up the rest of this. And then we got this replacement brace all cleaned up, pretty much to the same level as the step. So I can do the same thing. I can just do a rust converter on this now and have that ready to go. All right, let's take care of these few cracks right here. I'm just going to get a hammer and dolly and just try to flatten those out. Next thing I need to do before I think about welding up these cracks is doing something to prevent them from coming back. So what I'm going to do is drill a hole at the end of each of these cracks, so that way it won't continue. I just have to locate it, and I've got two cracks, one here, this other one picks up here. I just need to find those and drill them. Okay, next thing I want to do is cut this piece out. So I've marked where I'm going here, and I'm going to zip it on this edge so that I can make one piece to go in here. I'm going to use this piece of 18 gauge scrap, and what I want to do is fit it in as close as I can and mark it from the other side so I can make my cut. I know I need to leave room to bend this lip, so what I'll do is take a measure on that and figure out how much I need to leave off of this end, and then I can lay it underneath there and mark it. I marked roughly where I need that bend, and I was a little generous so I can cut it off to fit when I'm done. So now I'm going to mark this on the inside here. All right. And I need to leave a little extra down here because this has got to wrap around for this little piece that's missing. This is the patch I made. So as I mentioned, I put a bend on this so I can fit it down there. I left this piece to curve down into this down here. So now all I have to do is weld that in and grind it off. Patch is welded in. And I also took care of that little hole right there and those two cracks. So I'm going to grind these off and come back and show you how it looks. We're all ground off now. You can still see the line of where I welded. And I've never been able to weld to the point where you could just grind it off and it would be perfect. So a little bit of body filler, won't be much, will make that disappear. I think our corner turned out nice. This piece I had cut long and then I just zipped it off even with this part right here. So that's looking pretty good. I'll show you the back side here. Don't have to be too fussy on the back side, but that's our patch. And then the other thing I finished up on was welding up these two cracks. This hole right here, and there was another small crack right there. So a little bit of body filler on each of these will make these disappear. Next thing I want to do is get some rust converter, and I'm going to do both sides because there's still a little bit of rust in some of these pits, and for sure this backside needs a good coating. So we'll put that on, and then after that we'll move on to getting this brace back in. Okay, it's time to get our rust converter down. So I'm going to use this Rustex crud cutter. It's always worked really well for me. So I'll use that, and before I do that, I'm going to wipe it down with some acetone just to make sure it's clean. All right, we're ready to go with this. I left it overnight, and I've wiped it all down again with acetone. I think this is ready to go. Both sides are good. Now, before I could put this brace in, I want to get some weld-through primer down, at least in this section, because once it's on, I won't be able to get underneath there. And at the same time, I'm going to shoot some self-etching primer on the underside of this brace or this mounting bracket. And then I scribe these in again using the old bracket. The old bracket helps because I can see where my spot welds came out, so I can remark as I need to. So I can put this back down. I think I may have to do this one more time once I get my primer down. All right, let's get the old bracket and mark our scribe lines one more time. Just got to spot these here. There. And right there. All right, that's where I want to go. This actually gets a little bit easier now with this paint on here. It's a lot easier to see these scribe lines. Alright. Double check everything, make sure I got this exactly where I want it. Okay, I marked these INO. So again, the long side is on the outside of the step. Now we run this guy in. Line it up with our scribe lines. Okay, next thing I need to do is mark where I need to drill holes to plug weld this. So I need to make sure they end up on the top or in the trough of these ridges. I think I may go with silver on these. Go a little better. All right, that works. Now I just need to drill these out with probably a 1/4 inch hole for plug welding. I'm using these long reach clamps to get this side all locked into place. And the last thing I need to do, even though this is weld through primer, is give myself the best chance on these plug welds. I'm going to clean the primer off of these. Roll this back a little. There we go. I've used this before and I've shown it before, but this is basically just a 1/4 inch drill bit that I shave flat on the end, and this will take the primer off of there without cutting too much into the metal. If you've ever tried to drill with a dull drill bit, you know what I'm talking about. But this will give us a nice clean finish. I'm going to have to try that one again. Looks really good on this side. You know, you can see where it was heated up, but I don't see any bumps or holes or anything. So I think that looks really good. It's solid. It's going to work. Okay, I'm not doing all the body work on this, but I'm going to put some filler in just to cover the seams for my welds and smooth those out just a little bit. Well, that's it. We're all done. I put self-etching primer on this just to preserve it. Um, this is definitely not ready for paint, but of course this is the underside. There's our patch, and here's our new brace in the middle, our mounting brace. And then this is the side that we fixed. You can see the shadow of some of the body filler here, but again, I just wanted to get it preserved. The rest of the truck is going to need a lot of work too before it can have paint. I just wanted to make sure that the ground we got on this, we don't lose ground now. This is going to go into storage with that other step until it's ready for more work. So Lynn, we're all done. I'm going to bring this back to you and you can set it aside and we'll keep going.